Marcus's most expensive purchase this month wasn't the $620 he agonized over. It was the $847 he doesn't even remember spending. 3 doors down, his neighbor makes the exact same salary, same rent, same city. Her balance isn't moving. His has been bleeding $20 at a time, and he can't tell you where any of it went. The difference wasn't a budget. It wasn't a side hustle. It was a single rule about waiting 48 hours. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly why it works. I've spent an embarrassing amount of my life studying the gap between what people earn and what they actually keep. Not the motivational fluff, but the behavioral economics, the hidden friction points, the psychology that quietly empties bank accounts while the owner is distracted by bigger numbers. If you've ever looked at your balance and wondered where the money went, even though nothing big happened, hit subscribe, because today we're answering that with actual data instead of vibes. Like most people, Marcus figured he had a decent handle on his money. Nothing was on fire, bills got paid. He just never looked too closely at where the rest went. And if you'd asked him a month ago, he couldn't have told you either. Then he did something almost everyone talks about and almost nobody actually does. He tracked every dollar for 30 days. Every coffee, every app subscription, every Amazon purchase at 11 p.m. when he should have been asleep. His big purchases that month, the ones he planned and stressed over, totaled $620. A car repair, a birthday gift, a jacket to replace one with a hole in the sleeve. His small purchases, the ones he barely registered making, $847. The stuff he doesn't remember buying cost him $227 more than the stuff that kept him up at night. And this is not a skip the latte video. The latte was never the problem. The problem is something behavioral. Economists call friction-free spending, and Marcus was drowning in it without knowing the term existed. When spending has friction, when you physically count out bills, your brain registers the loss. That discomfort is a feature, not a bug. Swipe a card, tap a phone, and that friction vanishes. The transaction goes weightless. This is what weightless actually looks like. Not a dramatic splurge. Marcus barely registers the decision at all. 3 days later, a box shows up, and for a second, he's not even sure it's his. Researchers have confirmed this directly. It's not that card users are less responsible. It's that the physical act of parting with money is what makes the cost feel real. Remove the friction, remove the signal that tells your brain to stop. Marcus didn't have a spending problem. He had a friction problem. And here's the detail that changes everything. None of this was an accident. The companies behind these checkout flows studied exactly how much resistance a person can tolerate before abandoning a purchase, then engineered their systems to land just under that threshold. One-click ordering wasn't a convenience feature. It was a behavioral weapon. And Marcus was unarmed.
Let's put a dollar figure on it, because abstract psychology is interesting, but numbers change behavior. Marcus's $847 in forgotten purchases, multiplied across 12 months, comes to just over $10,000 a year. Not lost to an emergency, not lost to a bad investment. Lost to moments so small, he couldn't remember any of them the next day. And if he'd invested that $847 a month instead, at a historically normal 7% return, 30 years later, close to $1 million, evaporated, one friction-free transaction at a time. Elena used to be Marcus. Same habits, same friction problem, same end-of-month confusion. The difference was one rule she stumbled onto and never abandoned. Before any non-essential purchase, she waits 48 hours. That's it. Inside that window, 2 things happen. First, the dopamine spike fades. Anticipation of a purchase releases dopamine, and that spike typically peaks within hours and decays significantly within 24 to 48 hours. By the time her clock expires, "buy this now" has usually downgraded to a mild suggestion. Second, she forgets about most of it. Not from discipline, but because most cravings for an object are temporary emotional states wearing the costume of a purchasing decision.
You're not dying to own a $40 garlic press. You're bored or stressed or scrolling at midnight, and the garlic press happened to be there. It's not automatic for her either. 3 weeks ago, she stood in front of a $500 smartwatch, convinced she needed it. She screenshotted it, started her 48 hours, and went home without it. By the time the timer ended, she couldn't remember what had felt so urgent about it in the first place. The smartwatch made the list. So did 4 other things she can't even name now. In her first month running the rule, Elena's almost buy list totaled $620. Her actual buy list, the things that survived the wait, totaled $115. She eliminated over 80% of her impulse spending without budgeting a single dollar. She didn't say no to anything. She said, not yet. And not yet turned out to be the financial cheat code nobody taught her in school. There was a moment on day 19 when Marcus caught himself mid-purchase. He knew he didn't need it. He bought it anyway. And the thought that followed wasn't about the $40. It was, of course I did. I'm always like this. That thought is the real problem. Marcus's problem was never the $847. It was never even the friction-free spending. Those were symptoms. The real problem was that Marcus had built an identity around being bad with money. Every impulsive purchase didn't feel like a mistake. It felt like confirmation of who he was. Behavioral economists call this the self-fulfilling identity loop. You believe you're bad with money,
So you don't build systems to manage it. Without systems, you repeat the mistakes. The mistakes confirm the belief. The loop tightens. Elena never thought of herself as good with money. She just stopped thinking of money as a reflection of her character at all. She thought of it as a system, and systems can be adjusted. The 48-hour rule worked not because it was brilliant, but because it was external. It wasn't willpower, it was a protocol. And protocols don't care whether you're tired or stressed or convinced you deserve a treat. If this is helping, that's what the subscribe button's for. Let's get back to the numbers. Elena invested the $505 she saved that first month into a simple index fund and kept saving at roughly that rate. At a historically normal 7% return, after 5 years, around $36,000. Respectable. Nothing life-changing yet. After 10 years, past $87,000. Her friends see someone who's just careful with money. They don't see the machine running in the background. After 20 years, roughly $260,000. The gap is now large enough that it would take Marcus years of aggressive saving just to catch up to where she already stands. After 30 years, a full career, she's closing in on $600,000. And Marcus is still wondering where the money went at the end of every month. Not because he's lazy, because he never gave himself the 48 hours to notice that most of what he bought wasn't something he wanted. It was something he was reacting to, dressed up as a decision. Same income, same opportunities, same 30 years. The only difference was a 48-hour pause between wanting and buying. That gap, 2 days, is what $600,000 looks like. 90 days after Marcus started tracking his spending, he opened the same banking app, in the same kitchen. Instead of dread, he felt something unexpected. Calm. Not rich, not fixed, but the bleeding had stopped because he'd been the one deciding every 48 hours whether each purchase was actually worth it. Most of them weren't. He and Elena had coffee last week. She never gave him advice. She never mentioned the rule. She didn't have to. He'd figured out on his own what she'd known for years. The most expensive purchase in your life isn't the car or the vacation you stressed about. It's the one you never remember making, repeated thousands of times. Here's the honest part. Most people who watch a video like this feel motivated for about a week, then slide back. Not because the rule stops working, but because their environment never changed. That's exactly what our community is built to fix. The automation and environment design that makes the smart choice the automatic one. So you're not relying on willpower at 11 p.m. Links in the description if you want that scaffolding.
Here's the one-sentence version. The goal was never to stop spending. The goal was to stop spending on things your future self won't even remember buying. Your most expensive purchase isn't the biggest number on your statement. It's the collection of small numbers that disappeared into a system that was never designed to protect you.
The 48-hour rule won't make you rich overnight, and it's no substitute for a solid investing strategy. But it stops the bleeding. And once the bleeding stops, everything becomes possible. If this gave you a fresh perspective on your money, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Make sure to subscribe and check out our next video to take another step toward financial freedom. Thanks for watching Wealth Finder. I'll see you in the next one.